Hello, everyone. It's Pam Esquire, also known as your law intellect. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, this is my third time coming on today. And I said I was going to come on yesterday and discuss, probably in a different way, the situation that has been going on with Larry Reed. Hello, Michi Me. Hello, Cotillion Queen. How are you doing? People are slowly trickling in, probably because YouTube said, listen, I let all the people know last 2 times, and I'm not going to keep letting them know. So I heard the more that you come on, the less notifications come out. And that's the way it appears with the numbers that we have right now. So we'll wait a few minutes and see if we get a few more people that comes in. Otherwise, we may have to just go ahead and do this tomato. But speak to me as you are coming in. Speak to me as you are coming in. And let me know that you are here. Let me know that you are here. And let me know if you guys have been following the Larry Reed matter. You know, typically I hey Annette, hey Kawan. Typically you guys know I usually just deal with documents or whatever, but I had people that were asking me about it. And so I'm just gonna say how I am looking at it thus far. But again, um, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, girl, I am back again. No, I never talked about. I know really B. I know you've discussed it on your channel. You guys go over there and check her out. I never really talked. I stayed away kind of the Larry Reid situation because it just seemed I wanted to wait to see where it went and it seemed all over the place. But I have had a lot of people that have asked me about the case and the situation going on. And so there were just a few things that I noticed when I watched the mom's interview. And I was just going to talk about that briefly. Nothing real major. Good evening, Maceo. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my goodness, these notifications really are slow. They really are slow. Is there anybody in here that has been following the whole Larry Reid situation? Let me know in the chat. I don't know why this mug is getting not nan notification. Y'all share this out because they not giving out my notifications, obviously. My biggest thing is the video that Larry says he would deny if anything comes out. He said that years before this surfaced. That's disturbing. What was the context of it, though? Like, what was the whole video? Because we all know that he does talk and very transparent. So, what was the context of the video? I never heard the whole video. I did hear it being played over and over again, but I never heard the whole video. I'm just discussing right now just the interviews that are coming out from the other blogger, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. Thank you, the nurse. Thank you so much. Hey, Denise. You said it'll pick up. Really, B said it'll pick up. Yeah, I was on, like you said, twice earlier, so I didn't know what was going on. Hey there. So yeah, I wasn't ignoring everybody that was asking me about this case, about this situation. It was, hey Shelly, you said you tired of the saga. It's all over the place. I have various perspectives on it because I actually went through something similar to this in a church that I was at. Let me start out with that maybe. I had just so you guys know, like the context, I've been on both ends of a situation or whatever. So let's see. You said you can't keep up with it all. So for me, one of the things is somewhat triggering in a way because I actually had, when I was probably in high school, a church that I went to, a pastor was accused of some things. And, of course, it was like my parents were divorced. So it was my mom's pastor. And so my father was very upset about it because of some of the allegations. And they actually went to trial on that. And it's it was a very interesting case. Now that I look at it now as an attorney, I didn't realize how interesting that it was. The church was Evangel Christian Ministries here in Michigan. And the facts that were alleged, I just put the facts on there. This is from the Court of Appeals because it was maybe, I can't recall how many counts it was because, like I said, I wasn't an attorney at that time, but there were counts. And it was one lady accusing the pastor of something, and then she got two more ladies to kind of come on board. And two of the ladies, the jury just found were credible. So they ended up not even going through with it. So by the time the trial was over, it was one count that he was like accused of. So if you see like the facts, it says the defendant was the pastor of a church, and in 2001, the complainant attended a deliverance ceremony. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with deliverance, where they have inner healing, calling out demons and spirits and all of that. This is the type of church that it was. So they would have these deliverance, I don't know, they calling it a ceremony, but we just call them deliverance and inner healing. So an estimated 100 people were present. Of those present, about 20 to 30 were participants from whom evil spirits were to be expelled. The remaining persons were church workers and volunteers who were facilitating the ceremony. On the morning of the deliverance, the complainant filled out a questionnaire at the church about herself. In the questionnaire, the complainant alleged that her father, who was also a pastor, had abused her for 10 years. The questionnaire also indicated that the complainant alleged that she had been by a demon as a teenager, and that demons continued to torment her by grabbing her ankles in the basement. During the deliverance, all 100 persons present for the deliverance congregated in a room. Each person to be delivered would sit on a folding chair, while church workers would either sit across from each participant. I can't imagine like a regular jury never hearing like how deliverance works, probably how their mind was. Now that I'm attorney, they probably was like, what is going on here? So during the 3-hour deliverance, church workers prayed with and yelled at the participants and lightly struck them to drive out the evil spirits. Participants apparently were expected to shake, cry, and possibly vomit. The complainant stated that during the deliverance, she refused to participate by screaming or crying. As a consequence, she alleged that the defendant approached her with two other male church workers. These two workers held her by the arms while defendant stood behind her. According to the complainant, the defendant then rubbed her arms, her legs, her hair, her upper part, and her area. Defendant was charged with 2 counts of second-degree CSC with regard to the complainant, because there were other people as well. The defendant also charged with 3 counts of fourth-degree CSC with regard to 2 other alleged victims who also alleged improper touching during the previous religious ceremonies. Defendant sought to admit the questionnaire into evidence. So this was kind of what this appeal was about. The crazy part is, like I said, it was 1 count. It was 100 people there. My mom was one of the people that testified. And they said none of this ever happened. Now, this was in front of people. And they said none of this ever happened. All the people, she didn't have anybody to really corroborate her testimony at all. They wouldn't allow the questionnaire to come in where she said she had previously had someone that had taken advantage of her and that she was supposedly being taken advantage by demons, right? So that's why he's appealing, because, so it was kind of contentious. So he gets, he gets convicted of 1 count. He goes through the appellate process, loses the appellate process, goes all the way to the federal court for habeas, loses that as well. Do you know after he went through all of that, the lady came back to the church and apologized to everyone? And basically, she said she had, I believe she liked the pastor. And she apologized and said that none of it was true. Now, mind you, you're convicted already. And the pastor allowed her back in the church. So this pastor, well, he's a bishop. Well, he was a bishop. He passed away last year. And his daughter came to me and she was little, like during that time. And she was just like, my father was so forgiving, but I just can't forgive this lady because of the hell you basically put my family through and you put our church through. And he was that pastor where he really forgave her and he let her in. So I'm not like a person that I just believe everything. I just look at evidence. That's just what I am, what I do. And that situation taught me that, along with the fact that I do wrongful convictions, I know you have to try to corroborate everything as it pertains to me. Like, as an attorney, I've represented people in the opposite situation. In the opposite situation, there was a bishop that was in Kalamazoo, and he was accused of that, and he actually pled guilty. He was accused of doing some heinous things, and he pled guilty. So my thing is, when I look at a lot of this stuff, I look at it from a different point of view because I've seen it where it's been a lie, and I've seen it when it's been true. So I don't take, like, some people feel like if you just don't jump on one side, then you're victim shaming, and they really don't want to hear your opinion. I really believe, like, there are people that have suffered some trauma in church for sure. And nobody ever wants to take that from them. And I know people that have suffered trauma. And I don't ever want to make it seem like, so that's why I said it's a touchy situation. So you're going to get people in the chat or wherever that's going to say, it don't matter. I just don't, it's something wrong with it and da 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 da. Because that's, sometimes it's projecting what they've been through. But you have to look at it from what I've learned to do, which it took years to do. So I don't expect just people that don't do this to be able to really look at things from certain perspectives. So I looked at the interview of the mom. Did anybody see the interview of the mom of the accuser? I'm not even gonna say his name. But has anybody ever like looked at that video? And if you have, just tell me what your thoughts were. Because we just having a chit chat conversation. And you said some bloggers don't like Larry and use this as an opportunity to drag him. The fact that the accuser's story has changed several times make the question. So Jack Black said he has not seen it. Ember said I saw a snippet. So I'm not playing it or anything. So I just was going to talk about some of the points that was there. I will say this. After me watching it and I took notes, the math just ain't mathing at this point. But I'm gonna tell you why I say that. It's not just based off of that. Some of this stuff, and I'm also disappointed in some YouTubers, or this is maybe what they do because they're not journalists and so they don't have to have the integrity, I guess. Um, investigate people, investigate. Some of this stuff is you can Google. Like I Googled a lot of, you guys are gonna see that I Googled a lot of stuff, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, like literally Google. Not that I put on some spidey senses or something like that. It wasn't even like I did that. It was literally I Googled it. So there was a discrepancy, as you guys know, on when this person moved into the house. And I know that Conscious has done a whole lot of stuff on this. And so in the interview, the first thing that struck me, okay. So the mom sits down and she's giving her background. Now we will all, I guess, initially say, To me, it seemed like a no, like, okay, well, she's warming up. That's what you would look at it as. But those are the clues in your intro about your past life that I kind of look at for my when I start Googling you, right? So she starts out and she's like, well, one of the things that she said was she was this great person. She was a good kid. She was raised by her grandmother. She was this athlete. She did basketball. She's like 6 feet tall. She did basketball. She did tennis. She did softball, all of that. So then she said, Tasha, the interviewer asks her, so marriage and then a baby, right? Why that was an assumption, I didn't know. So of course she immediately, to me, I can see like the demeanor because there is a guilt and shame for some people like that. I was a teenage mother. Some of you guys probably didn't know that. And I don't have a problem telling anybody because I still did what I had to do and I'm where I am. So I tell people it's not a good idea because you make your life harder, but it's not the detriment to your life because you can still do what you got to do. You just make your life harder. So you can still become what you want to become. I use it as a testimony and I use it as prevention for a lot of teenagers. So by the grace of God, I have two older kids and they weren't, they didn't follow in my footsteps and I was a decent example for them. But you make a lot of mistakes because you grow up with your kid. You really do. I was in my late teens but it still was, you grow up, you're growing up. And you can tell like in her face, it was kind of like well, no, well, let me back up. So she said she was this great athlete and all of this stuff. And then her senior year, she gets pregnant. Her senior year. So then she says, I was doing everything right, and I got with this guy, and then I got pregnant. So then she goes on to say, and everybody wanted me because I was this great athlete. And so she says, I had got accepted in the community college and all of that. So then Tasha says, well, when did you get married? Because she says she has the baby and then she gets married. She said, well, when did you get married? And she said, well, I had my baby at 20. So I'm like, you said that you had your baby your senior year. Her birthday is towards the end of the year. Typically, when your birthday is at the end of the year, you graduate at 17. How did you have your baby at 20? So then off rip, I was like, oh, okay. Maybe she just, some people just are still shying. So I'm going to overlook that. So then Tasha says, well, did you have aspirations to go to the WNBA? She said, yes, I had aspirations to go to the WNBA. She said, and then you got pregnant. She said, yeah, I had my oldest son. I want y'all in the chat, and this was just in the first 10 minutes of this interview. I want you in the chat to let me know when the WNBA was even created. I want you to Google that because I can go to her Facebook page and tell you that it says she was born in 1966. So I want y'all to tell me when the WNBA was created, that your senior year you had aspirations to go to the WNBA. It was just that type of stuff in the first 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't even want to watch this no more. I was just like, I don't even want to watch this no more. I'm not even going to lie. So then I held off for a couple of days. And then I said, well, Pam, like there's going to be some things in there that you're going to be able to utilize. So I said, okay. Shelly Penderson. That's all I'm saying. Y'all, please pay attention. Yes, it was 96. I remember Lisa Leslie and them. That's the year I graduated from high school in 96. So that's the only reason why I do. First investigation, y'all. That's all I'm saying. Just invest. Like that was Google, right? That was Google. So then I said, Pam, stay focused now. I want you to go get through this because you want to get this to your people over there on the intellect because we're going to investigate this together. So then I tried to remember some of the things she said and some of the things that Larry said. So Larry kept saying, well, I know they kept talking about when the house was built. That wasn't really, and I was okay. But Larry kept saying she moved into Shamarco's house in 2007. So I'm like, well, how do we prove you moved into Shamarco's house in 2007, right? So she goes on to say in the interview that she raised her kids in the Rayford area in Hope County. So you know me, I'm like, okay, well, she got to have a deed somewhere. I'm sure she tried to have a house, right? Wouldn't you want to buy a house for your kids? So I go up and I look at the deeds. And so let me see. Um, Hold on, y'all, because I'm just not gonna give y'all any old thing. Why my thought process. I want you guys to just kind of see my thought processes and how you can refrain from being sued sometimes if you just sometimes use some of these thought processes. So I look at the deed. This is a deed. This is her name. You guys see the borrower, unmarried. It has March 21st, 2005. Okay. So she purchased the house March of 2005. I'm like, cool. So we know there was a house where she was living. So in 2005, we probably all know the boy's birthday by now, the man's birthday. It was in 1990. So he would have been 14 or 15, depending on when, well, 14, because I think his birthday is towards the end of the year. So 14 going on 15 when you bought this house. So clearly you wasn't living with Shamarco in 2005. So I'm like, okay, I could. So then I said, well, when did she leave the house? As you guys see, there's a notice of foreclosure for May 17th, 2007. So now it makes sense. Okay, she needed a place to stay and she moved herself and her family into the house in 2007. Y'all following me? So this is where the 2007 came from. So I was like, okay, well, see, this is the information when somebody tells you the area they lived or whatever. I was like, well, she done paid some rent. She done bought a house. She done did something. So y'all see that, right? So in 2007, he would have been, we'll go at the low end because his birthday's at the end. So you'd have been 15, no, 16 going on 17 when you look at when you was living with Shamarco. So that does line up. To me, a lot of times, and I'll tell Larry or whatever, y'all can tag me if you want. He don't always articulate correctly. And for me, this stuff, I guess because I do wrongful convictions, there's just everything is a clue to me. Everything is a clue. Everything is a clue. So that's okay, 2007. So y'all got that. I'm not just blowing smoke at y'all. I really listened to this thing. So then she goes on and she says, Tasha says, well, who is Trey's father? How was Trey's father? Now, mind you, a lot of this stuff is supposed to be because he got daddy issues. She said, how would you describe Trey's father? You know what his mother said, y'all? A hustler. What? She said he brought in money. He made sure they had. He had out of all this, out of all the one words, you say hustlers. Now, mind you, again, all this stuff is because she said he wasn't a bad man. He made sure we had. So then the red flags come up like, okay, hustler, like what? So then she says, it was Well, how was Trey when he grew up? Oh, he was spoiled by his grandmother, but he was he was a pretty good kid. He did what most kids do. So he wasn't troubled or anything, he just had the issues because his daddy wasn't there. Well, you just said he was a good man. You ain't a good man if you ain't there for my kids. You can kick rocks. I don't care how much providing you doing. Time cannot replace money. So that's my whole thought. I'm like, what are you even talking about at this point? So then she goes on, and I guess in the interview with the accuser, he says he had dibbled and dabbled in gang activity. So the interviewer says, "Did you know that he was in gang activity?" She said, "Yeah, I heard that before because he didn't know what I had done when I was younger." And she was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" "Well, my grandmother raised me, so when I was 14, she sent me over to my mom's. So she didn't really have a relationship with her mom. So she said she sent me over to my mom's. And she said, when she sent me over to my mom's, I got caught up in the wrong people. Now you're 14 and you just basically said, I ain't gonna say testify, but it is really testimony because that video can be used against you. But you just said you was this great kid until you got caught up with this guy in your senior year and got pregnant. But now you saying you was part of some gang, you was over in Long Island and you got caught up with a gang. She said, I paid cash when I was 14 years old, I paid for a car in cash. What? So I knew about it, but I had heard that that he was doing that stuff, but that was short lived. I said, okay. So then Tasha says, so he grew up not too far from here, right? Rayford and Fayetteville. I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't Larry have to dismiss that case because you were saying? So this interview happened in North Carolina, clearly based on what Tasha said. So you basically did a whole affidavit to the court saying that you wasn't living in North Carolina, your mama didn't have permission to take any service on your behalf, where he had to dismiss this case and refile, I guess, in Georgia, if that's what he chooses to do. And y'all in North Carolina the whole time? Y'all was in North. She said, literally. She said, so it wasn't too far. Rayford, that's not too far from here, right? You clearly wasn't in Georgia. You clearly wasn't in no doggone Florida. Too far from here, Fayetteville. That's what she said. I said, what? So then she goes on to say, well, how was your previous church? She said, well, I was there 4 to 6 years. And she was like, and it was good at first. And Trey was playing the drums and the pastor was really hands on. She said, I was very close. I was working in ministry, very close to the pastor's wife. And then she said, I left the church because there were things that were going on with the pastor that didn't sit right with me. And she was in a space where she felt like she wasn't going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, that happens or whatever. I'm not going to just call you no church hopper, even though there are some church hoppers. I said, that happens. So then she said, well, when did you start going to Reed's church? She said, well, when he came to our church and visited, I went there. My friend, she took me over to Reed's church. So I started going there. But I didn't bring Trey. I left him at the church with the pastor that you just said something didn't sit right with you. So she said, I left him at the church. And she said, because I didn't know if I wanted to stay there. So she said she don't remember how many months, but she did acknowledge when she first started going to the church, he didn't go with her. So that may be like the discrepancy too in some of this timeline. So then, yeah. So then I say some of the questions I had to quote. So she says, when you met Reed, question. When you met Reed, was there anything that you just look back on and say, something ain't right? She said, at first, no. I was so into the church and believing leaders, and that's how he came across as a person I can trust. I see you doing a great work. I didn't want to see it in any other way. So then Tasha says, well, were there ever whispers? And she says, after a while, you would hear little things, but you look over it. She said, I looked over things that had to do with money first. People would come into the church and say, the kind of lifestyle he's living is what it is. Now, mind you, you done got foreclosed out of your house and you able to go into a church where they welcome you in so you won't be on the street. And you really was listening to whispers about money and lifestyle and how he was living. So I said, okay. So then she says, and then you know how people know like a sinner comes in, they know it's another sinner. That's kind of like how it was. People that were of the gay lifestyle would come in and they would say, oh, he's gay and stuff like that. See, my issue with a lot of that, honestly, they keep equating being homosexual with pedophilia. And that's a problem for me. And I say that on everybody's platform. They're not one and the same. If you look at the statistics, nasty dudes are trying to mess with little girls. Older chicks is trying to mess with young guys. That's not what it is. So stop trying to put that out like that. That's what was strange to you. Like, cut it out. That's not cool. But I'm gonna go on because we're gonna get through this. So then Tasha says, and this is something that I did get from Conscious. Tasha says she didn't know. She said, yes, I understand how you get caught up. He is entertaining, charismatic, and learns people and knows how to get in and relate to them. So she goes on this soapbox about her relationship with Reed and how their relationship, they almost connected on the trauma because they both went through some of the same things. So she says, she asked him, she said, but I didn't know, because you remember, she's the one that told Reed to sue the first blogger allegedly. So, that's in the text message that I'm about to show y'all. So she says, she tells him, so that's why I told him not to, to go ahead and sue, because I asked her, you're sure there's no accusers? And he said, oh no, Ty, there's no accusers. It's just this blogger making up these lies. And she said, well, I was like, I never looked at the videos because why do I want to hear somebody lying on somebody? So then she says, well, so then Bishop Whitehead plays the video, and that's the first time I heard anything. I said, look. Now, this, like I said, I was able to see on Conscious's thing. So I have to give him his props on that because I don't know if he used it for the same purposes that I'm about to use it for, but it was used. So text message. This is a text message supposedly between Tasha and Reed. So it says that person has been doing videos on me since November 2019, alleging I had 3 boys. Now, a person that was in my church claiming I did when they were 14 to 17. I guess this is what is being at the top is like. So then he talk about Olga and all of that. As you see, there's a video right there. She says, sue them when it comes to stuff like that. Protect your name. In that text message, clearly the name was that it was a person that was an accuser. And I remember seeing that on Conscious. I'm like, that's not true because he showed the whole text thread. So, okay. So I don't know if she looked at all the videos. That's what St. James. I don't know, but I just know according to that. So that came from Conscious. So shout out to Conscious for that. So then she says, When did you come to know anything was slightly inappropriate going on between Reed and your son? The answer, well, the first time I heard it was before I went to St. Martin's about something going on in that area with little boys. So you get some type of whisper in your ear that something is going on with little boys and him. And you take an assignment in St. Martin's and leave your kid there. So I was just like, okay. So then she says she was in St. Martin. Y'all listen. She was in St. Martin pastoring a church because she was sent there by Reed's fiance when she heard these allegations. So she claimed she was in St. Martin for 3 to 4 months. I believe Reed said in his Patreon she was only there a few weeks or something like that. It wasn't that long. But she said, you know, her son was Skyping her and he was crying because she was gone and all of this and all of that. What type of job? I need the job that she got, that my pastor can say, Pam, I need you to do a mission trip over there in the Bahamas for a year. And you just gone on over there and go do the mission trip for the church. I was like, who just can get up and, unless you're not working? So we're not gonna complain about folk money. But that was just a sidebar. And then Tasha said, this is the telling part, y'all. So Tasha says, so do you think he sent you to St. Martin so that he could get you away from your son? So what I knew about her by this time, y'all, because I study people, what I knew about her was she would never say that even if she thought it. And the reason being is because it takes away the fact of, as if I'm anointed to go. You see what I'm like? She was upping herself too much in the beginning. I was a strict parent. I was this, I was that, you know, whatever. She would never say, like, it has to be because I was the most qualified. You know, I am an apostle. I hear from God. I don't know what, I think she's apostle now, but I am whatever I am. I hear from God, blah, 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 blah. That had to be the reason why she wasn't going to say that. So she starts out and she says, well, honestly, I don't think that, which I thought she was going to say. But then she says, but now that I look back, I really don't know. Well, the problem with that is she said she was in St. Martin's in 2009 and 2010. That would make your son literally 19 and 20 years old. So I'm trying to understand where these ages are coming from people, because that's why I said the math just ain't mathing. I just want y'all to just pay attention. That's all. So then she goes on and she says, I just want y'all to pay attention. So then it was like, what did you learn happened? So she said she was in St. Martin, that some things had transpired between Trey and her daughter-in-law. She didn't say what transpired between them, but she said, so they were at her other son's house. Mind you, she has an older son that's 4 years older. That was another thing. I'm like, why does he need all these mentors? And he literally has a brother that, let's just say, he started going to the church at 16. You have a brother that's 20. Why isn't he like hanging with his brother? So apparently his brother had a place, because she said that she was in St. Martin's, him, her son, the accuser, and his girlfriend, now wife, who is 5 years older than him, I might add, they got kicked out of the church. So when Reed said it, she did verify that. So that's why I said there's certain things I wanted to see that was verified. She did verify that they got kicked out of the church. And when they got, because she said he was controlling, he didn't want them dating each other, all of that. So she confirmed they got kicked out of the church. Shortly thereafter, that's when he said he her and Trey are staying over the son's house. And so she says in this interview, they call her on the phone. Now, if you guys recall, Reed said that the mom told him, I know my son is a liar and I know it ain't true, and made him apologize and beg for him to come back to the church. So I said, okay, let's try to see what we could find here to see what was, what was really going on. So apparently, shortly thereafter, them getting kicked out, they came with the allegations. So mind you, Reed said that she knew her son was lying. She apologized. She says on the interview, I was so in shock that I didn't really tell my kid how I felt. They thought I was on their side. So she kept saying they thought I was on their side. So they were so mad at me because I seemed like I was on their side, which led me to believe that there was some indication that you gave that you did not believe your child. Because she said that way too many times. She said, no, I believed him. So Tasha said, well, did you talk to Reed? She said, yeah, he called and he said it wasn't true. She said, well, did you believe him? She's like, no, I'm on the phone. And I'm like, I know I don't believe him. I'm just on the phone and I know this, he's lying. He said, but I was just so in shock and I'm in St. Martin's. I just don't know. And da 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 da. And she was like, so my kids thought I weren't on their side and I was picking the church over them. So then she says, well, how long did you stay before you went back from St. Martin? She said, oh, about 2 weeks. If somebody calls me and tells me, I don't care if it happened when my son was 12 years ago, I'm on the first flight smoking. My kid could tell me that today. And I'm on the, man, get out of here. She waited 2 or so weeks or a few weeks or whatever she said. It was more than a week to get back on that plane and to come back. I said, what? What? So that just was like, okay, Pam, push through. I ain't gonna lie, I only did like an hour. It was an hour and a half. I couldn't even hardly push through, y'all. Said Pam, push through. So then she says, when she leaves St. Martin's, she goes back to the church. Then she says, well, my sons were mad because I went back to the church and so they felt like I took their side, but I went back to the church for a purpose because I was going to be there for a few weeks because I wanted to watch something happen. Something was going to happen. I had got somebody to basically hurt Reed for these allegations. That's what she's saying. So she's saying that her sons were pissed off at her for going back to the church after these allegations because it looked like she chose them. So she said she still regretted that and she was sorry for that. So wouldn't y'all think? Tell me in the chat. If your sons are mad at you for going, wouldn't you think your son wasn't going there no more? Like, wouldn't you think your son wasn't going there no more? If your son is pissed off at you, you would think that your son is not going there anymore, right? So then she goes on and says, a lot of things were just going through my head. I was just thinking about he's controlling. Now Reed said the reason why she left was because she was dating some guy in another country and he told her it wasn't a good idea and all of that. So she did mention that. So we know that that's true as far as the issue with the boyfriend, because she said he was controlling. He would tell me who to have in my house. I don't know what house she was talking about, but she would tell me who to have in my house. And he would like tell me I was dating somebody. And because I was an elder in the church, he told me that wasn't a good idea. And I just sat there and thought about the stuff with Trey and just everything. And I was just like, that's when I came to my senses and I just had it. Patrice, listen. you so you need to attend his church to get someone to hurt him. That's what she said. So then Tasha said, well, why didn't you call the police? Now, mind you, all this is happening in 2009, 2010. And Tasha did say, and if y'all interested, I think it's at 54 minutes because I put timestamps on it. She said that around 2009, 2010 is when all this happened. So Tasha said, well, why didn't you call the police? She said, because I was gonna handle it myself. He said, well, when did you decide you weren't gonna do this and go through with all this stuff? She said, well, I decided this when I said I would be away from my kids, so I didn't want to do it. She said, did Trey know that you had actually had this plot and plan? She said, she looking at him because he in the room while she doing interview. He just found out in this year. I'm like, man, he probably just found out while you were sitting in that chair and you said that. So anyway, she said she sat there for a few weeks because I think Tasha made the statement of, so you stayed there for a few weeks or whatever, and then you slowly backed away. So y'all know, right? Y'all know Larry Reed. And me and Larry ain't always been on the best of we had to have a conversation because we weren't on the best of terms because when he first started out, one of his topics was one of my clients and I wasn't appreciating it, but he did apologize to her. So he did go on to this apology thing or whatever, and he apologized to me. So we good. There were certain things like I used to say, like sometimes you don't come across, whatever. We had our conversation. So this ain't about like up and up, no lid. This is about seriously, we have to look at everything with a lens, not like just because somebody said whatever, we just believe it. Because I told you from the beginning, it just the first 5 minutes was like, what? So I said, we know Larry. There's no way that he just all of a sudden started being on this here internet street. So I want to see if I could find some type of something where I can see how long this lady was at this church. Y'all not gonna believe this. Let me see. Let me see if I can share this.
We started by taking steps.
What was that? December 11, 2011. Y'all go ahead and get your praise on. Breakthrough Church of Rally.
Yeah. Hey.
All right. Y'all get the picture. So I said, all right. So I'm still looking. I'm like, y'all had to leave this church, right? Because I was thinking that they left the church because this allegation came out. So why would you want to go to a church with somebody who allegedly did this to you? Let me see.
In the belly of
That's his wife right there.
I come against that spirit that the Lord showed me last Sunday.
This is October 27th, 2000.
I said, if I got to kill it by myself, she come on, backslide. She
that says October 24th, 2014. We just saw the wife.
Come on, let a sound in the house. Come on, a sound. Come on, prophetic people.
Is that Samantha? Oh, that's
Come on, I hear the Lord say, let your praise. I'm tired for you.
I ain't trying to get flagged. So let me pause this because let me see. Wait a minute. Pause. All right. All right. Yes, this video is after the fact. Hello, this is Barbara. And I was just looking for some facts on the internet. That was it. So y'all don't be coming for me. Let me see.
Marketplace anointing, and you are handpicked by me, saith the Lord, to cause him to have your giftedness. Well, being anointed, trapped in water. I want you to
Trying not to get flagged here.
That are under the sound of my voice times a week. Once you have sphere and
Listen, I'm looking at some of these videos while you on here. So I seen that one video that she was on there. I seen the first one with the mama. Let me see.
God says the
right
help
there.
you needed, it's on the way. It's on the way. Hallelujah. The assistance that you need to do what must. Listen, God says the help you needed, it's on the way. It's on the way. Hallelujah. The assistance that you need to do what must be done. What must be done. Hallelujah. The wind is bringing it in. Hallelujah. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, the wind is coming. Say
But y'all get the picture. If you guys want to go on over there, there's a whole nother page and there's videos long after the fact as well. But then it's also because she said she waited a couple of weeks apparently, and then she decided to leave. So that was 2011 in December. That's all I'm saying. Then one more thing before we head on out of here. And like I said, some people just they gonna want to believe what they want to believe. And I'm not trying to go back and forth. I'm just showing you what what came up. And as stuff comes up, maybe we'll talk about it, maybe we won't. Because I really ain't want to talk about this at all. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Because he admitted to what? What did he admit to? What are we talking about here? You said you built for it. Yeah, I'm not. I just try to tell you what I looked up. So this right here is his page. So I started looking at his page just to see if there was like no contact, because Larry was saying that he still talked to him and all this stuff still, they were still cool. He let him come back in the church after the allegations were made, which it looks like, because we do see everybody still in the church if you guys look at the videos, right? So let's see. So if you look at the Facebook page, you see Reed's mom was on the Facebook page. We have, I guess he was talking to Reed. So this was, I just put the first picture on from November 20th, 2014. So sometime in 14, they were talking. The Breakthrough Singers, the church was the Breakthrough Tabernacle or the Breakthrough Church or something like that. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. This is December 10th of 14. He was still playing for the church apparently, or the Singers, because that's him posing about singing with them. And there's a whole lot of other Facebook stuff as well. Let me see. You got in the studio December 9th, about to rehearse with my brother. If you guys want a Patreon, I think that's his nephew or something, January 21st of 2015. You got the set Shedding for the Music. You got that on March 6th of 2015. You got Headed to True Vine to be with the Breakthrough Singers, March 15th of 2015. So then I also looked at Reed's pages during that time because I wanted to see, like, was he liking your pages? Did he? So then I see, like, this is him right here. January 18th, 2016. You liking his pictures, and it's a whole lot of likes. So again, I think that apparently there was still contact with the church, obviously, after this incident, which would, to me, kind of correlate with the fact that some apology must have happened or something happened and he was allowed back in the church, because he obviously stayed there. I thought, based on the interview, that he left. So I was looking to see, like, oh, let me see when they stop communicating with each other. Because once they start communicating with each other, of course, that's going to show that, yeah, that's the reason why they stopped. But there's no, like, all the way till 2017, if you guys look at it yourself. So ML, yeah, that's what I saw, 2017. And around that time, too, and I ain't trying to tell Larry's business because I was all on his page. But it looked like that's around the time he and his wife got divorced. So that might have been why they closed the church, maybe, or moved on. Because it was like a Facebook page, a Facebook post of like an all boys trip to New York as well. So I was like, and he was saying he was single. So I was like, maybe that's where he got a divorce. So it sounds like maybe with all of that, because divorce is like a death. Plus, it sounds like they got divorced before, and it was Reed probably that was initiating. And you know, when us women do it, it takes you to a whole nother place when us women do it. So it may have been because this time she did it, but okay, I'll take that. Hello, this is Barbara, but you know, you said he admitted to talking too much around. But you know what, guys? And this ain't no dig. Because y'all know I'm fair and I'm going to say what I want to say. If you look at it during that time, Reed and I are around the same age. He was a young pastor. So can you imagine, like back in the day, and maybe I'm just old school. I know the apostles was young, but they also was at the feet of the elders in the synagogue for a long time. He had to be like, what, 28, 29 or something with these older people up under him as well. You probably make a lot of mistakes. I'm not saying them type of mistakes now, but I'm saying like as far as boundaries, like my father is a pastor and he's in an organized church, and my mother was non-denominational and she married somebody non-denomination when they got divorced. And to this day, like now, just based off of trial and error, only certain leaders have their number. They can't call them. Like you can't call them past hours. My mother's husband does not meet with women unless she's in there with him. There's just certain maturity boundaries that you have to put. It sounded like, and I'm not knocking the having people live in your house. I think there were poor choices that were made. I'm not knocking putting people in houses. My mother did that. I hated it. Like my mother, we didn't have 27 people. But like people that came into church, because my mother was a single mother and it was just me and my sister at the house that lived with her at the time after my parents got divorced. So there would be people that came in that had like, I remember specifically, it was this white lady and she came from Oklahoma, and she came and her husband, they used to come to the church every now and then and they play instruments. And apparently, I guess he had abused her or something allegedly. So she stayed with us. And I hated it. So I can't imagine. I get the heart that you have, but I hated it. Like, so I can't imagine like 27. And to this day, like I never could have roommates. I had roommates for 30 days and that was it. I can't live with people, except, you know, my husband and my family now. But like I really, it did something for me, or to me. And I do think like at that young age, there was probably a lot of mistakes. Conversations, there probably are certain conversations that you shouldn't have. But if you're, you know, like he would have more been like a youth pastor back in my day. But that's not to knock to say that you weren't anointed, you're not gifted. I'm not trying to knock. And then another thing, and see, people always ask, well, why do they have all these Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck churches that are out now? And I said, because church also gives you a level of authority. To me, a lot of these pastors that are out here, and I'm just kicking it with y'all, a lot of pastors that are out here would never be nobody's boss in real life. But does being a pastor make you be like a boss? And can you get enveloped and you're young in the, yes, pastor, can I get your water? Like me and my husband was just talking about how the church they was at, they had a female pastor and how people cooked their food, people went to the dry cleaners, people did all this stuff for them. And that's kind of how we're raised culturally. You know, in the Black church, it's done culturally. So I think I don't like the terms of somebody's being obsessed with somebody, but I do think you can make someone your idol. And it happens a lot in the church. You really, like for me, I used to be thinking, yeah, God, I'm sinning, but my daddy a pastor, he do everything right. So I'm gonna need you to just go ahead and chalk it up like he do it right. So you should cover me too. You know, there's really that almost that mentality, like the closer you get to the person, the more special you are and all of that. It's so much involved in that whole church thing. So, well, you listen. Okay, well so that's all. But anyway, thank you, Shelley. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like I do believe some of these people need more training because I can't. And I'm sure with my mom going through what she went through, if you guys didn't see in the beginning, like what our church went through, I'm sure that she learned a lot from that. She's older now. You know, my parents are in their 60s and 70s. So I'm sure she learned a whole lot from that. But I can't imagine being like that young and having that type of responsibility. That's not to say that you're not called. We know, like I said, apostles were teenagers, early 20s. I know all that. But they also, like I said, they was like, I dedicate this person to you when they was in the synagogue. And it's just so many that's out here. And you got to know God for yourself. That's all I'm saying. You said they did that when you were coming worshiping idols and not God. Yeah, they idolize. They do. And y'all know, I listen to a lot. I don't think, yeah, I'm just going to keep it there. And yeah, that's it, y'all. That's all I got to say right now. So you guys enjoy. I hope I didn't offend anyone because I wasn't trying to. I was just saying my critique of that whole thing. Now, we all gonna sit back. And yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna talk about this like ever again, because some of y'all comments is like, dude, I'm just saying you can have your opinion at the end of the day. I'm not like knocking that, but y'all don't come for me because of that. I'm just telling you the stuff that I found just on Google. And I think as YouTubers, sometimes maybe some people should have stayed away from it until all the facts were out, because there's things you can Google to figure it out. So now people are going to change their, it was very specific that those titles said 15-year-old and things of that nature. Now people are going to switch it to, well, even if he was this, it's like, yeah. Okay, hello, it's Bug. Hey, just don't. Child, no. Nope. We had insurance. And so my mother went and we just got it, and we had got bars on our windows. But yeah, you remember that story? I got a lot of stories, child. But yeah, that lady though, see, now I'm triggered because that lady that lived with us, let me tell you how we used to get these people out the, well, I used to get the people out the house. I hope my mama ain't watching. But I used to pay attention to their phone calls. So you would have these DVs, and I get it, when you have domestic violence, you know, you go back. But you would have these people that was in the houses, and they would be calling like they exes and stuff. Like, why are we gone? Like, you were supposed to almost be like a shelter so they don't know where you are. But you calling them, talking to them, and you in the bathroom. We wasn't rich. We had like a little 3-bedroom bungalow. I heard everything you were saying, ma'am. You basically planning on letting this man know where we live at to come to our house. And you just said he been beating your behind. Like, you gonna put us in danger? But that's what people in leadership do sometimes. I hated it. I hated it. You said, Joe. You're welcome. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of my day, because this was like literally the third time I came on today. And I hope you guys enjoyed the live. And I'm going to holler at you guys next time.